Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live show with me and Francisco. How are you, Fran?
Hello, welcome. I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here like we're every Tuesday. Get ready because we're going to be sharing a lot of information. You can let us know in the comments right away whether you are a parent or a student watching this and what grade your student is in. And basically, what we'll be covering today is mistakes. And I mean this in the most positive way possible, but mistakes that parents make on their road to college or on their students' road to college so that you can watch this and learn from them and hopefully learn from other people's experiences so that you avoid making these mistakes yourself. All right, so we're gonna get started in just a second. I already see that we are getting Grace in the comments saying hello. We're getting the Miriam Sam saying hi. You have a student in 7th grade. Dana is saying hi. Welcome, 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 everyone. Yes, so hopefully the tips, the mistakes, the information that we share throughout this presentation will be of a lot of value to you. And again, you can go ahead and start. Maybe if you know of other parents or other students who would get value out of a conversation like this, you can go ahead and start sharing it because it helps us grow the channel and it helps us again reach the proper audience so that more people can learn this information and obviously help us grow.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Monica, Isa, Dana, Chloe, Grace, everybody who's watching. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 mistakes that both parents and students make on the road to college, how to avoid them. It's important to know these things ahead of time because if you know these are kind of mishaps or things that could happen along the way, you're aware of them and you will most likely avoid them, right? And we'll also be sharing some other free resources. And I do see some comments of rising juniors, a couple of rising seniors. Remember, if you are a parent or a student who is going to start 12th grade this coming year, lots of things to be doing this summer to get ahead of that college application process. And there's also other things because I know I saw 7th graders, parents of juniors, 10th graders. It's important to also be on top of the other parts of the college application. And in that free resource that we have for you, which is in the link in my bio, we don't have to wait. You can register for it after this live stream. There is actually more information on what to be doing, throughout high school and in middle school, right? And tips that can help you and your student prepare better and get accepted to the right college with scholarships, right? So super important, a free resource for you and your students. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead, Fran, and talk about those mistakes? And you want to introduce the first mistake most parents and students make on their road to college and how we can avoid this?
Right, absolutely. So first, let's paint a picture of what the landscape currently looks like at high schools, and maybe someone in the comments who has had a similar experience can also corroborate or maybe dispute what I'm about to say. But basically, one of the biggest mistakes is just assuming that the counselor at the high school is going to solve everything for your child. This is not a knock on, their commitment to their student success, but rather there's not the infrastructure. The way that it's set up is the national average is 450 students per every single college counselor located at your student's high school. And what this does is that even if you have a counselor that has the best disposition and wants to help your student and, be there for them, they lack the infrastructure, they lack the time, the resources to be able to sit one-on-one with a student, much less their parents, and let them know, okay, based on what I'm seeing from your profile, based on what I'm seeing about, regarding your aspirations, here's what you should do next. Here are the schools that, might be a good fit for you, let alone any other more advanced consultation, right? So my tangible recommendation as how you can avoid this or what you can do to combat this if you are your students rising into 12th grade or, you're in 11th grade, you have students in middle school, is first of all, know where you're standing, right? If you do happen to have a great counselor, you just don't know it yet because your student has not reached out to them, then go ahead and start that conversation. If you're a parent watching this, ask your student, okay, have you ever seen or do you even know who the college counselor is at your high school? Have you ever met with them? Okay, if you met with them, what was that conversation like? And then you can make assessments about whether or not it's exactly what you need or whether they can help you or not. But if your student tells you, I don't even know who they are, Or even worse, they tell you, yeah, I know who they are, but I try to, schedule an appointment or ask them these questions and I couldn't be booked until, next month or next week. Then you might start to understand that you have a problem. But one of the biggest or one of the most recurring messages that we get every day is people telling us, under students, 12th grade, second semester, or once they graduated high school, that they didn't act as a parent or as a student on their, looking for a counselor or getting help or advancing in the process because they were just assuming that the counselor at the high school would eventually, hit them up second semester, junior year, and be like, oh, here's a list of schools that you should apply to, or here's how you apply for scholarships. And then ultimately they realize as time passed that that never happened, right? So this is your call to at least know where you're standing, look at what options are available for to you or to your student at their high school, and then make a determination based on those interactions. But the worst thing that you can do is stay sedentary and not do anything about looking at options, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, super important to be aware and to know that the opportunities are out there. There's over 3,000 colleges and universities in the United States, and a lot of times students kind of and parents too, depending on the state that you live in. For example, here in Florida, we see it all the time. Students here, the three big schools, FSU, UF, and UCF, which great schools, but they don't go outside of that to research and to get familiar with the opportunities, right? And we're gonna talk about some other mistakes, but it's important to have an open mind and to know that in order to get accepted and to go to a great school paying as little as possible, you are going to want to get out of your comfort zone and you're going to be needing to do some research, right? So super important, which, brings me to the second mistake a lot of parents and students make on the road to college. And it's, not really knowing the price or being aware of how much college costs, but also how generous certain schools can be. Which brings me to that example. Students often think that, if you go to school, which can be true for in a lot of cases, going to school in state is the cheapest and is going to be more affordable than going to a private school, private college, private university, either in state or out of state. Which, if you look at prices, yeah, state schools tend to be cheaper than private schools. However, there's a lot of private schools that are very, very generous and that have a big endowment, which means that they can give a lot of financial aid and scholarships for students, whether it is based on merit or financial need. So it's important to be aware of a school's generosity, right? And with that, you're going to be again doing research, getting out of your comfort zone, and being aware of the opportunities that are out there. And it really does depend because I know I'm going to get the question and I got it. It's like, which was best, private or public colleges? It really, when it comes to generosity and price, it really does depend because, for example, the University of UNC, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, huge state university. And it's, it can be very, very generous with financial aid and scholarships, but other big state schools, like, for example, Penn State for out-of-state students, doesn't have a history of being, too generous when awarding financial aid and scholarships. And then in my case, I went to a private school in New York that tuition was about $50,000 a year, super expensive, but also endowment. They had huge sources of income or money to award students scholarships and financial aid. And they were also big on awarding need-based aid, financial aid and scholarships based on financial need. And I was able to go to college, tuition with full tuition scholarships. So that was my case. And my list, my college list, which we will talk about that later, consisted of colleges that were generous. So don't make the mistake of not researching that and not being aware of how much schools cost and how generous schools can be. Alrighty, so just wanted to talk about that. That's the second mistake to avoid and to keep an eye out. And then I would like to now move on to the third mistake, which Francisco can elaborate more on this, but a lot of parents and students again, get carried away with the name of the school, get carried away with the size, the location, and that they don't even consider when making a list of colleges or applying to colleges, if the school even offers the major that the student wants to study, or if the student has an idea if it's in the medical field or is it more in the business world or the arts world. They don't research those things, and they don't look for colleges that will have those opportunities. So don't make that mistake. That's why creating a list of colleges is super, super important. And we do talk about that more in our free resource that we will share how you can find it in a little bit. But super important too. Students have to know who they are, have an idea of what they want. If they know what they want from the get-go, if they know they want to be a doctor, if they know they want to be computer scientist, it's much better once you have a full idea of what you want. But even if it's like kind of, oh, well, I really like this and I think I want to go in this path, a general idea, that is also going to make a huge difference. So make sure that you are considering that major of study. What does the student want to major in? Because it's going to be important. Trust me, we've seen a lot of cases where parents or students tell us, yeah, no, my student applied to this amazing school, and when they got there, he was undecided, but he knew he maybe wanted to go into business, and the school didn't have a business program, or their business program wasn't that great. It was kind of new. So they had to transfer or drop out, right? So we don't want that. We want your student to go to the right school that is going to offer them the most financial aid and scholarships as possible, right? So it's important to be aware of those things and to plan ahead and to have an idea of what it is that you want. And the earlier, the better.
Right. And taking into consideration the last 2 points that you've talked about, in terms of, okay, how generous is school? That is a big search criteria that you have to incorporate into making that final list of 8 to 12 schools. And also, the academic programs that they offer. Okay, that should be another massive component that comes into consideration when making that final list of schools. Also, if I look at the comments right now on Instagram, the last two, Jay's private is saying, private or public, which one is the best? And then the next question, is it true that going to a state school can give you better job opportunities? Well, this is all part of the considerations that have to go into making a list of colleges, right? So before we move on, I want to emphasize that it's not a one size fits all in terms of like, oh, all public schools are better than all private schools, or all, big state schools are going to give you more job opportunities than other schools are going to give you. A small private college might give you less job opportunities. No, part of the due diligence that comes into making the final list of colleges will be looking at, okay, how generous is the school, whether it's a college or a university? Okay, what percentage of demonstrated financial need do they have a track record of satisfying in years prior? What is the employment rate of graduates from this university? And then do that same research from a private school perspective and a public school perspective. Maybe you're going to find some trends that will steer you in a certain direction or not, but it should always be a case by case situation that determines those final decisions, right? So I wanted to make that parenthesis and invite you all to do that due diligence, because for the most part, a lot of people say, no, big state schools, you're going to have more networking opportunities and you're going to make a lot of friends that are going to be living in a certain area. But an argument could also be made for, private institutions that have, a very, localized area of study, that is a private finance school or a private engineering school that is very dedicated to that field. And you might have a higher, employment rate if you graduate from that school than if you graduate from something else. So again, it all depends on what you want to study and the particular school statistics, right? So I wouldn't generalize with an answer like this, but I would invite you to, based on your own criteria, look at the options and then look for those key performance indicators that matter when it comes to a school, okay? So that's a little parenthesis that I wanted to make before moving on to the fourth tip, which is kind of taking into consideration the importance of merit. And what I mean by this is, okay, are you a student athlete? Are you part of, student government or theater or music or the debate team? And then take into consideration how these merits, and again, they could be extracurricular or they could be academic. They could have everything to do with your GPA, your SAT, your ACT scores, and basically leverage those for what it is that you intend to do. So if you want to be recruited as a college athlete, okay, you're going to have to go through the recruitment process. If you want to only use your sports as a way to increase the competitiveness of your college application, you have to clearly establish that, and through your written components, make sure that you write how these sport or whatever if you're going to write about it, make sure that it's in service of displaying the qualities that a particular university seeks for in their applicants, right? So you can use merit as a way to get scholarships. You can use merit as a way to increase the competitiveness of your college application, but it would be a big mistake to not use merit at all, or not know, just join a bunch of clubs your senior year of high school, but not necessarily have any impact or any leadership positions, because schools can see through that, right? So it's good to start early and have a strategy as to how you can leverage all these things, right? So I wanted to go ahead and mention that. And before Laura talks about the final tip or the final mistake that I want you all to avoid, I do want to, again, remind you that once this presentation is over, you can go to the link in our bio, and basically every topic that we're, discussing here, it's more of a conversation that Laura and I are having. We expand upon further a deeper level in the free training that we have on the 6 steps to go to college with scholarships. It is a presentation given by my brother David, who's one of our best college aid counselors, completely free to register, and that is located in the link in our bio. So after you're done watching this, you can head to our Instagram and TikTok pages and just register by clicking that link, okay?
Exactly. Yes. A free resource that we have for you guys, because I know we're talking about a lot of things here and discussing kind of like different points. And remember, the college application process, there's a lot of things that go on and things that happen or should happen as early as, maybe ninth grade, some stuff that should start in middle school, some things that don't, like more technical stuff like filling out those applications, completing those essays, supplemental essays, all those things do happen 12th grade. But it's important to be on top of everything and to be proactive, which if you are watching this and you're trying to learn some information, it means that you are being proactive. So thank you so much for watching and for your comments and for being involved. We love that. And take advantage of that free resource. It's actually a free training that we just recorded and we created for you, where we talk about, the 6 secrets to go to college with scholarships. But we also answer some of the most frequently asked questions from parents and students who have gone through this process, who are currently going through this process. So something that we created for you guys. Check it out, take advantage of it. And that brings me to our final mistake to avoid. And this is not being familiar, not being aware of the different types of financial aids and scholarships available for students in the United States, because a lot of people, Francisco, we see it a lot. People think that the FAFSA, federal aid, is the only type of financial aid, and they have this mentality because maybe they've heard it from teachers, maybe they've heard it from other parents, other students say, oh, my family didn't qualify for the FAFSA, so my brother didn't qualify for the FAFSA, so he's not going to college, or he's going to go to community college. He's not going to get any scholarships. Or we don't qualify for the FAFSA because we make too much money. My family makes too much money. There's a limit. Whatever the excuse may be, they don't fill it out, and they think that that is the only aid available for students. It's important to know that there's 4 types of financial aid. It's kind of like 4 tier sources, and then every one can provide, different types of scholarships and financial aid. So it's federal aid, which you need to fill out the FAFSA in order to get this type of financial aid. But there's also other types. There is state aid, which is a big chunk and a lot of students' financial aid and awards come from state aid. It does depend on the state the student resides in and what type of program they have, but there's a lot of states that have funding to give students scholarships and aid for college. There's also private aid, private scholarships, which the name suggests it comes from private sources, organizations, people, churches, businesses. And this is an aid that Could be students could start applying for this type of scholarships as early as middle school. And finally, it's institutional aid, which Francisco and I, and a lot of our students inside of Best College Aid, a lot of our clients, their financial aid award packages, most of it comes from institutional aid, and that's the goal. Yeah, maybe a full ride private scholarship would be great, but in most cases, your financial aid award letter, most of the money is going to come from institutional aid, which basically means award aid and scholarship awarded by the institution that your student ends up going to, right? So, and this can be based on merit, it can be based on financial need. So it's important to be familiar with the different types of aid, where they come from, how to apply for them, because knowing this can help your student be prepared. And again, that specific topic, the financial aid topic, we do cover it in that free training in the link in my bio. So go check it out, because you will learn a lot of very important information regarding that and other things that we've covered in this conversation. Fran, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else.
Well, basically, on top of everything you said, yeah, you covered it perfectly. The 4 sources of financial aid and scholarships: federal, state, institutional, and private. The one thing that I do want to add on, just to finish up, is that every single one of these sources of funding gives out money for one of 2 reasons: financial need or merit, right? So that's why it's so important when we're talking about merit, to make sure you accumulate those experiences, whether extracurricular or academic. Okay, make sure that you work towards getting a high enough SAT or ACT, so that if your state has a merit-based program like you suggested, Bright Futures in Florida, New York Tuition Assistance Program, whatever the case might be, you have enough merit to qualify for those once you fill out, the proper documentation. And then also private scholarships might need you to have, a GPA threshold or whatever the case might be. And then for need-based awards, well, that ties back to what we were saying about selecting the proper schools that will give out scholarships and using that as a search criteria, so that the institutional aid that you get is a mixture of merit-based institutional awards and need-based institutional awards, right? So other than that, everything's being covered. Understanding the 4 sources of money is the first step, though, because once you understand them, okay, by October 1st, I have to fill out this form. Oh, okay, I have to strive for this SAT or ACT score or this GPA so that I can qualify for this award. And then you go from there, filling out all the bureaucratic processes that you have to kind of complete to receive this source of money, okay? Or this funding for your education, right? So basically that covers the main mistakes that we wanted to go over with people. Again, make sure that you know what your high school offers in terms of their counselor. Make sure that when you make your list of colleges, they offer the career they want to pursue. Looking at the history of financial aid generosity that the school provides. Making sure that you are thorough with your merit, extracurricular, academic, whatever the case might be. Accumulate these experiences so then you can only write about them on your essays and make them part of your extracurricular portion, but also maybe get merit-based awards from them. And then finally, understanding the 4 different types of financial aid and scholarships so that you don't leave any money on the table. That's a summarized version of everything we covered. If you came in late, you can watch the replay that we'll be posting after this session concludes on our Instagram and TikTok. And if you want to dive deeper into these topics and find a more, broken down explanation of how to navigate the entire college application and scholarships process, you can go ahead and register for the free presentation in the link in our bio. You're watching on TikTok and Instagram, you go to our profile, wherever the little Best College Aid USA button is, and you click on that link, you register for free. And if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, it should be on the description below this video, all right? Just wanted to thank you again for watching, for joining in on this conversation, and remind you that we'll be back here next Monday at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time, like we are every week. Hopefully you got some value out of this, and we'll see you either in the presentation or we'll see you next week.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you learned a lot. And yeah, see you later. Hopefully you take advantage of that free resource. And if you have any questions, let us know. Talk to you soon. See you later.